Am I ready? Good afternoon. I'm Ann Beheler. I am the principal investigator. I keep wanting to say primary investigator. I don't know why. For the Convergence Technology Center based in Dallas. Some of you who know me know that I actually live in California, and I am actually leading the center in Dallas on a contract basis and have been doing so for 5 years. We are very, very fortunate to have 3 of our most active Business Advisory Council members with us today. So I hope you will bear with me because I'm going to talk about the general gist of what I was going to say, but I'm going to change it a little bit to be a little bit opportunistic to use their vast background for them to answer some questions that I'm going to pose and then other questions that you might want to ask as well. So the topic is, how do you stay afloat? Okay, we got to get that part gone. Well, that didn't work. All right, how do you stay afloat, getting new programs in and keeping the old programs going? Well, actually, the focus on the old programs isn't the real issue. The issue is how do you get the new programs in? I want to set a little bit of context because I think it's important for you to understand where we're coming from. Not particularly that what we're talking about specifically applies to just what we do at the Convergence Center, because it doesn't. I've used the processes that we use to create a sailing program, as in sailing a boat program. For Orange Coast College, I've used the same process for doing other programs in IT earlier in the 1990s, and so it works in general for any technical program. The processes were honed under the Regional Center. It is part of a National Science Foundation Center created in 2004 to revitalize IT education. Who remembers 2004? Okay, were people getting lots of jobs in IT in 2004? No. In fact, I was hired in the fall of 2001 to grow IT enrollments for Collin College in Dallas, Texas. And the problem with that is, in fact, that there were 70 to 100,000 IT workers who were being laid off at the very time. So we worked with our business people, and we really did revitalize IT education and the employee pipeline in the area. This actually does apply to any technology program. Our partners. We have 18 mentored colleges, which you probably can't read there. Some of them have gone on to be regional centers themselves and have picked up mentoring some of the other colleges. We work with those colleges to help them actually implement programs in convergence technology or information and communications technology, whatever acronym you want to use. It is basically IT with communications. Our goals are to create the convergence degree and certificates that are driven by business need. And I hope you start picking up on something as we go through this. Driven by business need. Strong words here. This is not a program that ignores business and has them come in at the end and rubber stamp what you've done. It's very much driven by business. We also provide professional development for faculty because, in fact, how are faculty going to know how to teach the next new thing if they don't have the opportunity to learn it? I know that in the past I ended up being the one who put together one of the first networking programs in all of Texas. And the way I learned it at the time was I convinced the college that actually had some money at the time. I convinced them to send me to the, I'll call it boot camp type training, and then I got to train all the other faculty that were involved in it. I don't think that's really the best way to do it, but it worked at the time. But we provide professional development where community college people can work with other community college people. As a matter of fact, sitting up here, we have Sam Bound, who has taught at our institute 2 or 3 times now and has done a very good job. We also work on recruiting and retaining underserved students, primarily Hispanic students or Latino students. In the general population, Hispanics and Latinos are in at least Texas and California are not represented in our programs to the extent that they're represented in the population. So we're also working on that, and then we disseminate everything we do because we do what we do with taxpayer money. Nirvana. Nirvana for a good technical program, in my way of thinking, the graduates obtain high-wage employment. Not so great if you're training them for a job that's minimum wage and they have to put 2 years in to get the skills to go off and get minimum wage anyway. Not such a good idea. Fortunately, in our business, we're in great shape on that. And also, it's very important that business and industry recognize the program and that they think that the pipeline that they're getting of the students that come from your college are actually valid and can be productive for them in the business place. The requirements for this program. Number one, the knowledge, skills, and abilities that you teach have to be tied to business. In my opinion, I feel very, very strongly on this. It's not good enough for we as faculty members to go off and decide, here's what we want to do because it's fun for us. Not a good idea. We need to be teaching programs that are tied to business knowledge, skills, and abilities, the needs. We also need to know that there's workforce demand. It's not particularly great if we train people for jobs that don't exist. Not particularly a good idea. Would not have been a good idea, for example, in 2001 when I got there, to put out a program that would train someone to be a certified Novell engineer. Anybody ever remember that? Okay, I used to, by the way, run the Novell, several Novell programs. That's another story. But bottom line is we've got to make sure that there's a workforce demand for the person that we're turning out. And then faculty have to have appropriate skills to be able to teach. And then number 4 is repeat from one. How many times are you going to repeat from one? Over and over and over and over again. We visit item number 1 with our Business Advisory Council once a year. We update at least yearly. And sometimes they say, oh gosh, we've got a paradigm shift that's not waiting for the next time and we're going to do it before then. So it's very important that our program follow these guidelines in general. Business demand and engagement, the most important element by far. You can have fabulous faculty who are really, really good. You can have fabulous equipment that's really, really good. If you don't have the business demand and business guidance, it's not a good thing. Typical Business Advisory Council, what's your experience? How often does your Business Advisory Council meet? Okay, it's after lunch. That means you have to answer. Twice a year, okay? Twice a year is good. Anybody meet it? Well, you don't have to raise your hand. I know some that meet only once a year. I know some that only meet once every 2 years. And I would argue that meeting infrequently does not hit the mark because the industries that we're in, the technical industries that we're in, change too rapidly for that sort of thing. Mixed level of knowledge in the membership, that's not particularly all that bad. That's fine. Sometimes they just advise a little bit and review rather than leading. I don't think that's particularly good. Better to have the business people actually lead. Suggested model is to have a regional council. I know in some areas, for example, in Southern California, there are 11 community colleges in a span of about 30-mile radius. I would argue that having a regional council is a very good thing because the business people then can come and they can affect change at 11 colleges at the same time. In the North Texas region, for example, there is the Dallas County Community College District, there's the Tarrant County Community College District, which is Fort Worth, and then there's the Collin County Community College District. They're all right against each other. And before our grant, these college districts would compete with one another. One would go out and go, well, I'm doing a new program, and they'd get it going, but they wouldn't share and wouldn't tell anybody else about it. Well, with this grant, we're all in it together and we're all helping each other. In the Business Advisory Council, while some of the colleges do still have individual business advisory councils, we do have the grant council that advises all of them. Who do we have? We need the right people. We need high-level technical people. We need the first-line people, the people that are actually doing the work. HR reps are okay, but in general it's a problem because the HR reps, unless they have been technical in the past or unless they're very, very well plugged in, they probably are not level of being able to actually say what knowledge, skills, and abilities need to be in the program. And I'm talking fast because I'm trying to get to the part that's the best part. I would like to invite Glenn Wintrick, who is the chair of our Business Advisory Council, and he's with the Innovation Office at Dell, to the panel here. And Tu Nguyen, who is with Comerica Bank. He's the Vice President of Infrastructure Technology. And Larry Pereira, who is the Director of Marketing for Alcatel-Lucent. You are our token business representatives. I'm going to ask them some questions and ask them to respond. John, may I have them use this mic? Okay. I'm not supposed to go in front of the screen, so I'll do this. The first question is, How did you get involved in the CTC, or do you remember? And how long ago was that? How long have you been actually actively involved?
Well, I was joking with Ann on Monday night that I've received my 10-year token now. But I was saying that with a glass of wine in my hand, so everyone guessed that was for something other than the original one. And so I've been working with Collin County College for about 10 years now, and since the inception of the grant a little over 7 years ago, I've been leading the Business Advisory Council. So I do have enough memory yet. The hair is gray. You can't tell from back there. It's a little short. But I do remember 10 years ago, and I was launching at the time. I worked for a company that Ross Perot, that ran for president, owned, Electronic Data Systems. And I was launching IP to the mainframe and convergence technologies, voice over IP and things like that. And someone said, you should go out and see what's going on at the college. They're starting to talk about that stuff. And I showed up at the first meeting. At the end of the meeting, I was asked if I could run the convergence group. So it was one of those, if you show up once, you're never going to leave. It was sort of like the California Hotel, and I'm still there. I haven't checked out. So that's a little bit about where I came from and why. Did you say why I was there, or just when I got there?
When?
When, okay.
We'll ask why later.
Well, I started, got involved with the CTC since the beginning, actually, through Dallas County Community College District. I was teaching at Knockley College at the time.
You have to speak up because that does not actually go into the
Okay,
room.
sorry.
That just goes into the
Well,
stream.
basically, not only I was teaching at Knockley College, but I also work at Comerica. This is my 15 years at Comerica Bank as a VP of Infrastructure Technology Services. And I've been involved with the CTC, let's say, since 2004, and have known Ann for over 10 years now.
Getting close to 20.
Get close to 20.
Really
I started out, didn't have gray hair, and still don't. So that's a good thing.
I didn't either, but I do.
There you go, Larry.
So I'm Larry Pereira. I met Tuan last year actually at UTD in one of the projects for Six Sigma, and got to know him quite well. Actually, it wasn't last year, it was about 3 years ago. And then about beginning of last year, he started talking to me about this council and invited me to the first face-to-face meeting that was about a year ago. Next month, it'll be about a year. So while these two are old-timers, I guess I'm a newbie. But it's been about a year, but I'm enjoying it and getting to know everybody and all the projects, and look forward to it.
Okay. Well, you don't have to pass it all the way down. Just go ahead and talk about some of the things that you've done involved with the project and how we do our job skills analysis.
Oh, that's a tougher question.
We're going to see if they remember
The first one was
something.
the
They do
first
it.
question was an underhand pitch, and now she's starting to do the overhand pitches for us. Some of the things I've been involved with the college was all the way back from the beginning when we actually had to go out and procure the equipment and set up the first convergence lab that had everything from a simulated East Coast, West Coast fiber network all the way through a wireless LANs. Back then, I believe we were probably on wireless LAN G instead of A, B, or N. And also to set up all of the convergence technology, which was Cisco at the time, which is what I had launched at that point at EDS. Also, I've been involved with the grant work and with the current work going on to hopefully move from a regional center to a national center this year.
Similar to Clint, from the business perspective, I provide the projections in terms of the numbers of high-tech employees for the business, and it is add that as a value add to the CTC because with the skill set and some of the skill set that we review, like Ann stated earlier, that we review on the annually basis to making sure that the business still need those skills, and whether or not additional skills need to be improved, so that the professors like yourself can advise students to learn. That's important to us.
So I think Glenn told me last year that I'm pretty much one of the only person that represents the council on the infrastructure level on telecom, right, Glenn? For for the most part, everybody there is more focused on enterprise level, whether it's security or other forms of technology. So the dimension I bring, I think, is, what happens when that data or the voice call or the data call leaves your premise and goes into the infrastructure, and then, comes on the other side locally or globally. And there's a lot that happens there. So that's what I bring in.
What did you, go ahead. Okay, go ahead.
I didn't answer the second half of your
I was
question.
gonna ask you again.
You're going to ask me again, huh? Well, one of the important things we do when we do the job survey, we have a number of different tools we can use. Not only the Business Advisory Council, because that is limited. That's the 30 or 40 people, and that doesn't cover everything we'd want to have. And you know what they always say? You can't. I think it was the founder of one of the last CEOs at General Electric said, no matter how many smart people you hire, you won't have all of them. You got to find some other ones other places. So we're very lucky in North Texas. We have a nonprofit organization called Interlink, and they put a survey out to literally hundreds and hundreds of businesses to survey over the next 3 years what are the type of salaries and what are the job skills that they're going to need in North Texas. So that is also one of the things that we use as an input into our process, is that annual survey. But along with that, not only are we looking at what's in the future, but it's even more important that students, their time is so valuable, and there's so few courses, especially in Texas, where there's a limit to, is it 66 hours or 60? 66 hours?
Well, it was 72. I'm not sure what it is.
And you can't just say, let's add 2 more courses, because suddenly you have more courses than you have room in the curriculum to be able to teach. So you also have to look at what do you want to take away from the curriculum. And that's probably much tougher. If any of you ever have launched new products or services, it's easier to create a service than it is to kill one off, because there's so many people screaming they want to keep it. So that's probably the tougher part of the job, is actually trying to decide what do we move out of the way, either into an elective category or completely off the agenda as we bring the newer technologies in, especially with things like mobility and cloud and some of those things coming up.
Well, I'm humbled to say that if I introduce myself as from the financial institution, and you're thinking, so what it has to do with with technology? In fact, if you take a moment to think about it, financial institutions responsible for a lot of technologies today. For instance, banking, web banking. How many of you have web banking? Pretty much everybody. When was the last time you actually walk into the banking center doing business? Very, very seldom, would I say? I mean, very rarely today. I actually worked for the bank for the last 15 years. I literally walk into a banking center maybe twice. I feel guilty, but that's the nature of technologies, because the financial institution is a high-risk business, meaning that we have to protect our data. Absolutely have, protect our data. I mean, your information, my information, and our family information. So we deploy, we invest significant amount of dollars. Literally, our budget for America about $30 or $40 million a year, just to secure the infrastructure, just to improve the technologies, just so that you have that mobility wherever you go.
The next question is, I'm supposed to talk in this, I forgot. Sorry. The next question is, why do you bother to be involved in the Business Council? And the correct answer is not, I do it because it's the philanthropic, wonderful thing to do for the world. I've told them to get really selfish now and tell me why they really stay around. I do believe that people act in their own informed self-interest, meaning that you do good things because you want to do good things, but ultimately there's probably something that is a sticking piece that has to do with what actually fuels your business or yourself personally. So I've asked them to be very selfish in this. I'm giving it to you first.
Wow. For me, it is about giving back, absolutely from business perspective. And I'm a bit selfish about that as well. But I do, because I teach at the college, that's one way to give back to the community through the knowledge base that I gain from doing the work that I do almost every day. And you bring that experience back to the classroom. That is big difference. Now, involving with the CTC absolutely is about the market trends, the industry trends, meaning that where we go next, what happened 5 years from now. Obviously, we cannot predict 10 years from now, but surely we can predict 3 to 5 years from now. And as you know, that where we're going today is about mobility. We can sit here all day and talk about mobility. And I bet you that 3 years from now, every businesses will have to we look at is a core business process to see where we are today and how we're going to cater for the next generation. And that's 3 to 5 years from now.
So, like I said, when Tu invited me to to come attend the face-to-face last year, we have one face-to-face. What I'd noticed was there's a lot of stuff I know on the infrastructure side, and I'll be selfish. But and I do know a lot on the enterprise, but not enough. So from a selfish perspective, I myself was learning a lot from the from the enterprise side while I was contributing on the infrastructure side. That said, what I have noticed though is I work for Alcatel-Lucent, and we have announced back in early February, literally a groundbreaking technology that's going to change the way. When you guys drive down a highway, you see antennas up on the cell towers or poles that basically carry your voice traffic or data traffic as you're going from one point to the other. And you know how messy they look. For every antenna up there, there's a radio somewhere at the bottom of that pole or in an enclosure. And what we have done is we have married the radio and the antenna in the same enclosure up there. So we're going to get rid of all that other stuff. And over the next 5 years, all that technology is going to make its way into the marketplace, and it's just going to be a way to revolutionize the cost infrastructure. So that said, from a company's selfish perspective, it would be nice if we could get our installers and technicians into the two-year colleges and get that kind of technology thought at the two-year colleges. So if I could contribute in that way over the next couple of years, it's still early in the game, but if I could do that, that would be a great thing for my company.
Well, I have probably the most selfish reason to start with 10 years ago, and that was I was creating technologies to deploy in the industry. There were no technicians to maintain the technology I was deploying in the industry. So from a very selfish perspective, in a company of 126,000 people at EDS, we had about 4 people who really understood it well. And that's pretty hard when you have customers like General Motors with sites in over 84 countries. Those 4 guys would have been on a lot of airplanes fixing telecommunications equipment if we didn't find a way to hire and train more knowledgeable people and to get it more accepted in the industry. Now, Cisco has done a great job with the Cisco equipment, but I'm sorry to say that not everybody uses Cisco equipment for IP telephony. So we needed to have students that had a broad-based understanding of the business requirements and the technology foundations going forward. So I've helped with the colleges to shape a program that did a couple of things that I think are very important for the advisory council. It is, we didn't want technicians that couldn't talk to business people. Step one. If they can't translate what they've figured out to do that was innovative into business terms, they can't be successful. We didn't want technologists who didn't know how to put a PowerPoint presentation together and give it. We didn't want technologists that didn't know how to work on projects as a team and be successful, even with different personalities. So when you look at the programs the Business Advisory Council has shaped, almost every program has a case study in it now, and there's a capstone course where as part of a project team they have to develop not only the architecture, but have a business panel that they brief and take questions from. So when they graduate and go in the field, I've heard feedback from HR people that they're shocked that these people are coming out of a 2-year program with the experience and knowledge of what a lot of engineers have after they finish their MBAs. So that's quite a tribute to the college to be able to do that. The other thing is when I discovered, since Dave Galley is in the room, I'll pick on Dave for a second, is about 2.5, 3 years ago I started talking about certification called CISSP for security. And I said there's going to be a huge shortage of this in the industry. Security is going to be the #1 IT area that companies are going to fall short. They're going to need forensics people. They're going to need people that can do ethical hacking. They're going to need people that are generalists in security. Well, it was about a little over a year ago, was it, Dave, that we brought our first class through our CISSP? I personally know some of the graduates that are now working in the security area. One of them was Perot Systems where I worked, now Dell in the security area. So these people are not only finishing the program and passing the test, they're becoming employed. And you know, some people are a little modest about it, but since it's not my salary, I don't mind talking about it. The salaries for people with CISSPs out of a 2-year program, they're not minimum wage. In fact, they're about 10 times minimum wage. They're in the 70s and 80,000. Some of these people are almost up to 6 figures after 2 and 3 years. So we're giving people the ability to change careers, go into a 2-year program, graduate, and get the type of pay that they were getting in their old career with 20 years of experience or possibly higher. So from a selfish perspective, I've been able to bring people into 3 different companies I've worked at and bring those talents in and get people involved within the company and going out to the college to help shape the curriculums to meet the needs of the community that we live in. And that is really, from a selfish perspective, that was one of the things, but I got to tell you, if that was the only reason, I wouldn't be doing it 10 years later. It is really great to be able to see the changes in technology put into our education system and talk to the students after they've graduated. And they recognize that what they have is something very special that not many community colleges are providing. So the Business Council's made a difference. It was mentioned by Larry, we meet face-to-face once a year. We also have 3 other meetings a year where we will work through curriculum. We always do about a 45-minute session, and that's only because Ann and Helen Sullivan, they pull the plug on us at 45 minutes, but we do future trends of what's coming down the pike in the industry. And almost every meeting we set up 1 to 2 Tiger teams to take those trends and say, these 2 look like the most prominent ones. Let's get a Tiger team together and figure out, do we need certification programs? Do we need certificate programs? Do we need associate degree programs? How can we get this into the curriculum 18 months from now? So maybe that's not quite as selfish, but I'll tell you what, it feels really good to look back over 10 years and see what we've gone to in the Collin County and with this ATE program, the things we've accomplished. So I guess that's part of my sales pitch for, without ATE, I don't think any of these things could have happened. It really is that not only the hard work and professionalism at the colleges and from the people on the Business Advisory Council with me, but it's from the National Science Foundation and what they've done for us. Without the National Science Foundation and of course that 1992 program that was launched by the government, we wouldn't be anywhere near where we're at in the technology programs across ATE. So I want to thank them personally for what they've done for our communities.
Thank you. I'm going to zip through just a few slides at this point because we really only have about 15 minutes more. Would you guys like to go back to your seat, or are you fine sitting there? Okay, do you want to ask questions? Forget the rest of the presentation. I'll post it, okay? You guys can read and you can ask me questions. We are so fortunate to have 3 business people that took 4 days out of their schedule to come and be with us, be involved in our team here. They're involved there too. And oh, by the way, how would you have gotten to wine country had you not met 2? They ended up having a side trip yesterday. So let me bring in fact, John, do they need to come up here so that they're in the light if they want to ask questions?
I think it would be fine if it was just her voice.
Okay, why don't you? Yeah, okay.
Yeah, I'm Timur Mirzoev. I have a question, and it's a general question. What do you think is the biggest challenge for doing what you're doing with ATE? And in terms of maybe financial or educational, or what is the biggest obstacle in providing the leadership for educational environment?
Did you hear the question? I have to take this back. What is the biggest obstacle for providing your leadership to the ATE programs?
Well, you know, it's a very unique thing. It depends on what line of business you're in, on how fast things move. With technology moving as fast as it moves right now, from the business side, it always seems like things are moving too slowly for me. Now, there's very good reason for that. It's not that the people aren't trying to go fast. There's a lot of things you have to do to set up a curriculum, get the curriculum approved, especially if it's going to be a ladder program going to like UNT for a 4-year degree program. That makes it to where you really get to where you're sort of having your feet tapping and your arms, you're tapping your fingers on the table going, why is it taking so long? And the involvement, but that's probably the biggest challenge I see is I'd love to be able to change the curriculum every 6 months, and that's a little bit hard to do. Even at 18 months, I think it's Herculean efforts to do some of these things. One of the instructors, and I've forgotten his name, over the summer last year, he put together 1,500 slides for a class that he was going to teach, a new class in the technology area. 1,500 PowerPoint slides. And who was that? We should give him credit.
Steve Willis.
Steve Willis.
It was actually 1,800.
1,800 slides, but I guess I talked to him a month before he finished. But that's the kind of effort that goes into it, so I understand why it takes so long. But it's frustrating to know that there's job opportunities in the market, and it's going to take us at least a year to get the people qualified for them. But that's the other reason I'm involved, is because we try to look, of course, in the job I am now with the Dell Innovation Office, I'm looking out at what's happening in 2015 through 2020. So I guess if I tell them what I need in 2015 tomorrow, they'll have it ready for me long beforehand. So we're getting down the right track.
That works.
I'm going to borrow Ann's from the CTC goals perspective, and that is driven by the business needs. Really, is business we have, and we have the need, no doubt about that. For instance, virtualization. For some of you have attended the retreats, and you have learned the VMs and virtualizations, and from the business perspective, how are we using those? How are we using the newer technology? Well, like I said the other day, that we are using it today. We are able to take thousands and 10,000s of servers and virtualize them, and reduce the cost of power consumptions, reduce the cost of footprint for our data centers. We are able to do a whole lot of things that we can prove in terms of hard dollar cost savings, and that's one way. Well, how I've taken that knowledge and helped CTC and ATCE understand how the business use the newer technology.
Wait, I have a question. My question is, do you think we listen to you?
Not only listen, you responded to our needs, and meaning that now you can convey the needs to the students, and the student will acquire those skills and be able to get a good job, like as mentioned earlier.
So I'll answer your question from a corporate point of view, and which is directly tied to the academia. Okay, so the challenge always is forecasting and trying to look through a crystal ball as to what is going to be important 5 years from now. And a while ago we would do 10-year strategic plans, 15 years, and now we'll be lucky if we come even close to a 3-year strategic plan, because things change so quickly. And I'll give you an example. Earlier this year or late last year, AT&T realized that they did not predict the data penetration that would take off as rapidly as it has, and they were off by about 5,000%. Okay, 5,000%. And so they start beating us up because we supply the infrastructure to them. And basically the term they used was, we did not predict the data tsunami, and neither did you, because we spend hundreds of millions of dollars with you guys, and you should have helped us. And they are right. So that is the tough thing. And so if I import that into the ATC environment, being new that I am, it's not easy predicting exactly what type of courses 3 years from now will be important to the students to get the right jobs and be right qualified. And that's why on the business side, the intelligence is important that can be factored in. How do we see the world 3 years from now, and what is the most important stuff?
Can I make a comment? I still didn't get an answer to my how do we do the knowledge, skills, and abilities thing. But that's why having the whole group together, going through a process that we have, that it's called a modified DACM. It's not a full DACM because DACMs take too long. Our whole process takes maybe 4 to 6 hours when you get started from nothing. And the process goes through the knowledge, the skills, the abilities that we as faculty members and administrators think might be appropriate for the future, a year, 2 years, 3 years down the road. And we go through this process with the business people where they as a group rank them. And it's very interesting, Larry, because if you end up with the whole group ranking, the net tends to be pretty well right on because your collective intelligence is incredibly accurate. It's very, very good. Then we take that knowledge, skills, and abilities list that has been validated and vetted with the business people, and we, in fact, then use that with the faculty to identify where we might have gaps, and we go through that and add modules or add courses, and that's where the CTC grant steps in because we have a lot of, I'm sorry, I have to advertise a little bit. We have a lot of curriculum that's already been developed, entire courses with PowerPoints, with hands-on labs, with assessments, with finals, with the syllabus. And also we have a mentored college program that, unfortunately, Bill, we're going to run out of time, but you can talk to Bill. He is involved in a mentored college program. We actually will help you take what we've done already and go through vetting it in your region, and it takes a very short amount of time. Bill put up a program in Southern California, I want to say in about 6 months, something like that. So very different from the 18 months, and it was because he was building on the work that you all had already done. Do we have other questions? Yes. Yes.
Hi, my name is Louis Capelli. I'm from Questar 3, and we have a Cisco training course. And there are just so many things we can teach our students about IT. The field is enormous. And I was thinking about, I'd like to hear a little information about what specific protocols or what skills I could make sure my students are exposed to make them highly marketable.
We have one mic. I'm getting pretty good at running a microphone around.
I can take that one. Actually, I'm also adjunct faculty at Northland College, and I teach CCNA, CCNP, and security. And with the skills that I believe in the Cisco environment, right now is security and troubleshooting. Because the infrastructure, once you put in place, not only you install it, but you have to maintain it. And how maintain it, because the risk is exposed all the times, constantly. And that is troubleshooting skill and critical thinking, to me, is more important. Because critical thinking is allow you to think through the process, where to start and where to end. And that's important. And if you can emphasize that critical thinking into the curriculum, I think you have a benefit. A student will graduate from that program and have a strong skill set when he or she employed.
I wanted to add to that. I think probably the one thing that's changed in the last 4 to 5 years that's critical, and it's going to continue to change or actually intensify going forward over the next 4 to 5 years through 2015, is if you train someone, they are the best network guy around. They've done every network course you can think of. They're worth about half as much money as the guy who knows half as much about network, but he also knows 10% of servers, 10% of storage. He understands virtualization. He understands security. That basically the handyman who can go across the board, because as we move into the cloud environment, and as much as some people will be kicking and screaming on the way to the cloud, whether it's a public or a private cloud, there is no such thing as thinking about the network by itself, or the server, or the storage, or even the security by itself. Everything you do in each one of those areas is going to interact with the other areas. Just think about it. 5 years ago, would anybody have thought we had virtualized networks? That was the big thing. You can't have that cloud. You got to have that guy order the switch. It takes 6 weeks. We virtualize it now. So having that skill set that you can talk and understand, because the towers have fallen down. There are no towers. If you have towers in your companies, you aren't going to be effectively at what you do in IT anymore.
Two ones at security, and the other one I'd like to add to that is quality of service. Quality of service both on the private side and the public networks is extremely important, especially now that, we are doing away with our home phones, what we used to call landlines at home, and we only now have it if we require a fax number or something like that. But for the most part, we are doing away with it. So what that means is we have to depend on the cell phones. How many times do you guys drop a call a day, right? Or you can't really hear what the other guy is saying, and you have to try to guess because that call is being handed out. So it's about quality of service on both sides. That's really, really important in addition to security. So let me talk about really quick on security. The government has not stopped, they have last year, about 2 years ago, they have come out and said security is number one for all the grants they give out, period. So anything that you do, if you don't put focus on security in a network from a technology perspective, they're going to scrutinize you very, very closely.
So we are at the end of our session. I would invite you to come up and talk to these guys. They're going to be around for another day. I appreciate all you've done for us in the past and all you're doing for all of us now, Glenn, too, Larry. Can we give them a round of applause? We need a closing comment here.
Yeah, just really quickly, I thought there was one more question coming that I could sneak it in. But one of the things that is becoming very important in industry, and we heard it a little bit this morning actually in one of our keynotes, about innovation and about having a number of people involved. Well, you've all heard of crowdsourcing, or a lot of you have. If you haven't, go Google it. It's great to read the wiki on crowdsourcing. But one of the most important things in innovation, and this is going to be not only in the academic environment, but definitely across all of our business environments we have, whether you're in nanotechnology, biotech, or the convergence technologies, it doesn't really matter. Is innovation is not three people getting in a room that are really, really smart and coming up with a disruptive innovation. That happens once every 4 or 5 years. We've seen it with the iPod and a few other things. But really what innovation is, it's where you have diversity of thought. And what I'd like to do is throw out a challenge to this group, is that one of the things I do in the innovation office at Dell is we're looking at open innovation. And I'd like to put a program together where we involve everyone with the National Science Foundation in open innovation, so that if we're looking to solve a problem and we can state that problem in the terminology that's broad enough for people from healthcare and biotech and maritime to look at it, surprisingly we've found answers from people that are working in HR that used to be in the healthcare industry give us an answer to a problem in the IT industry. And it's not because they're IT experts, it's because they've done a little freewheeling off of the last person's idea. So one of the things I'd like to start doing with the National Science Foundation is putting some of these challenges out for all the bright students, professors, and teachers at our colleges and other business people to start looking at how we can solve these problems. Thank you.
Sounds like a great idea, huh? I think we ought to work on that. Sounds good. Well, I'll close by saying again, the Convergence Technology Center is here to serve you. If we can help you in any way, we have curriculum, we have processes. You're invited to our business calls that occur once every 3 months. So bring us a card and we'll put you on our list, and thank you for coming. We go now to the exhibit room for a break. Thank you. Thank you all. That was good.